Hello, this is Elias, a volunteer reader for Audible Local Ledger and a lover of contemporary poetry. It's my privilege to share with you once again a number of poems which have caught my fancy. I'm recording this session towards the end of February when Cape Cod and much of New England is under a blizzard alert. So I'm beginning today with two poems. The first is February by Margaret Atwood. Winter, time to eat fat and watch hockey. In the pewter mornings, the cat, a black fur sausage with yellow Houdini eyes, jumps up on the bed and tries to get onto my head. It's his way of telling whether or not I'm dead. If I'm not, he wants to be scratched. If I am, he'll think of something. He settles on my chest, breathing his breath of burped-up meat and musty sofas, purring like a washboard. Some other tomcat, not yet a capon, has been spraying our front door, declaring war. It's all about sex and territory, which are what will finish us off in the long run. Some cat owners around here should snip a few testicles. If we wise hominids were sensible, we'd do that too, or eat our young like sharks. But it's love that does us in. Over and over again he shoots, he scores, and famine crouches in the bedsheets, ambushing the pulsing eider down. And the wind chill factor hits 30 below, and pollution pours out of our chimneys to keep us warm. February, month of despair, with a skewered heart in the center. I think dire thoughts and lust for French fries with a splash of vinegar. Cat, enough of your greedy whining and your small pink bumhole. Off my face, you're the life principle, more or less, so get going on a little optimism around here. Get rid of death. Celebrate increase. Make it be spring. A poem by Phyllis Levin titled The Blizzard. Now that the worst is over, they predict something messy and difficult, though not life-threatening. Clearly, we needed to stock up on water and candles, making tureens of soup and things that keep when electricity fails and phone lines fall. Igloos rise on air conditioners. Gargoyles fly and icicles shatter. Frozen runways, lines in markets, and paralyzed avenues verify every fear. But there is warmth in this sudden desire to sleep, to surrender to our common condition with joy, watching hours of news devoted to weather. People finally stop to talk to each other. The neighbors we didn't know were always here. Today they are ready for business, armed with a new vocabulary, casting their saga in phrases as severe as last night's snow: damage assessment, evacuation, emergency management. The shift of the wind matters again. And we are so simple, so happy to hear the scrape of a shovel next door. A poem by David Allen Sullivan entitled Warnings. A can of self-defense pepper spray says it may irritate the eyes, while a bathroom heater says it's not to be used in bathrooms. I collect warnings the way I used to collect philosophy quotes. Wittgenstein's "There's no such thing as clear milk" rubs shoulders with a box of rat poison which has been found to cause cancer in laboratory mice. Levinas' language is a battering ram, a sign that says the very fact of saying is as inscrutable as the laser pointer's advice: do not look into laser with remaining eye. Last week I boxed up the solemn row of philosophy tomes and carted them down to the used bookstore. The dolly read, "Not to be used to transport humans." Did lawyers insist that the 13-inch wheel on the wheelbarrow proclaim it's not intended for highway use? Or that the curling iron is for external use only? Abram says that realists render material to give the reader the illusion of the ordinary. What would he make of shin pads cannot protect any part of the body they do not cover? I load boxes of books onto the counter, flip to a yellow highlighted passage in Aristotle. Whiteness which lasts for a long time is no whiter than whiteness which lasts only a day. A. Ayers talk about the blinding glare of the obvious. Objects in the mirror are actually behind you. Electric cattle prod only to be used on animals. Warning, knives are sharp. What would I have done without remove infant before folding for storage? Do not use hairdryer while sleeping. Eating pet rocks may lead to broken teeth. Do not use deodorant intimately. Goodbye to all those sentences that sought to puncture the illusory world, like the warning on the polyester Halloween outfit for my son. Batman costume will not enable you to fly. A poem entitled Adding It Up by Philip Booth. My mind's eye opens before the light gets up. I lie awake in the small dark, figuring payments or how to scrape paint. I count rich women I didn't marry. I measure bicycle miles I pedaled last Thursday to take off weight. I give some passing thought to the point that if I hadn't turned poet, I might well be some other sort of accountant. Before the sun reports its own weather, my mind is openly at it. I chart my annual rainfall, or how I'll plant seed if I live to be 50. I look up words like bilateral symmetry in my mind's dictionary. I consider the bivalve mollusk, re-pick last summer's mussels on Condon Point, preview the next red tide, and hold my breath. I listen hard to how my heart valves are doing. I try not to get going too early. Bladder permitting, I mean to stay in bed until 6. I think in spirals, building horizon pyramids, yielding to no man's flag but my own. I think of Saul Steinberg. I play touch football on one leg. I seesaw on the old cliff, trying to balance things out. Job, wife, children, myself. My mind's eye opens before my body is ready for its first duty. Cleaning up after the old maid Bassett in heat. That, too, I inventory. The Puritan strain will out. Even at 6 a.m., sun or no sun, I'm Puritan to the bone, down to the marrow, and then some. If I'm not sorry, I worry. If I can't worry, I count. A poem by David Budbill entitled Sometimes. Sometimes when day after day we have cloudless blue skies, warm temperatures, colorful trees and brilliant sun, when it seems like all this will go on forever, when I harvest vegetables from the garden all day, then drink tea and doze in the late afternoon sun, and in the evening one might make pickled beets and green tomato chutney, the next red tomato chutney, and the day after that pick the fruits of my arbor and make grape jam. When we walk in the woods every evening over fallen leaves, through yellow light, when nights are cool and days warm, when I am so happy I am afraid I might explode or disappear or somehow be taken away from all this, at those times, when I feel so happy, so good, so alive, so in love with the world, with my own sensuous, beautiful life, suddenly I think about all the suffering and pain in the world, the agony and dying. I think about all those people being tortured right now in my name. But I still feel happy and good, alive and in love with the world and with my lucky, guilty, sensuous, beautiful life, because I know in the next minute or tomorrow all this may be taken from me. And therefore I've got to say right now what I feel and know and see. I've got to say right now how beautiful and sweet this world can be. Here's a poem by Aaron Murphy titled Amphibious. My daughter wants to take a framed oil painting to school, a nude with loose breasts and a belly ripe as the full moon. Why? Because we're studying frogs, she says, and it's a frog. I cock my head to consider the angle of the draped arm, but can't get past the female form. My daughter, though, is swimming in amphibians, bringing home scribbled pictures of tadpoles sprouting splayed feet. At night she sleeps in the bedroom I painted pink, her shelves lined with confectionery teapots and cups. By day she wants to be her brother when she grows up. Lately she's morphed into a creature who'd rather squirm free than be held. Oh, how we see what we want to see. My daughter, looking at a nude, sees a frog for show and tell. I look at her and see myself. A poem by Scott Owens titled On the Days I Am Not My Father. I don't yell. I don't hold inside the day's supply of frustrations. My hands stay open all day. I don't wake tired and sore, dazed from senseless, panicking dreams. On the days I am not my father, I hold my son when he cries. Let him touch my face without flinching. Lie down with him until he falls asleep. Realize that just because he has a sharp tongue, just because he's sometimes mean, just because he's smarter than me, doesn't mean he'll become my father. On the days I am not my father, holding you is enough, until holding you is no longer enough for either of us. I listen well. I let things go unfinished in an order I didn't plan. My mouth is relaxed. My teeth don't hurt. My face stays a healthy shade of pink all day. On the days I am not my father, I don't fill the silence with my own irrational rants. I don't resent the voices of others. I don't make fun of you to make myself feel better. On the days I'm not my father, I don't care who wins or loses. The news can't ruin my day. I water plants. I cook. I laugh at myself. I can imagine living without my beard, with my hair cut, without the fear of looking too much like my father. On the days I am not my father, I romp and play. I don't compare myself with everyone else. The night is always long enough. I like how much I am like my father. A poem titled Middle-Aged Men Leaning by Bruce Taylor. They lean on rakes. It's late. It is evening already inside their houses. The children are gone. Their wives are on the phone talking softly to someone else. This frost, this early fall upon their minds, a small measure of patience and regard, as if the twilight world in bright papery pieces diminished so and thus. They lean on hoes in spring, the green earth turned once more beneath them, their eyes full of flowers, their hands full, too, of the planting still to do, the weeds and drought awaiting their pocketful of seed, the water they must carry. In an early winter dark they lean on shovels, a graying heart, a last bad rap inside them, looking upward toward the sky, the yard, the driveway, the car, the street, the world itself, for all they know, buried by the falling snow. Even as they gasp to breathe and rebreathe the visible breath, like a burst cartoon balloon of an old imperfect prayer. In summer, After long mowing, they lean toward a growing silence in the plush grasses. In leaves of many greens and trees of their own colors, where grackle and crow, each to its own shadow, in the dusky reach of branches, gather quietly to stay. Here's a poem by Pat Schneider titled Lessons. I have learned that life goes on, or doesn't, that days are measured out in tiny increments, as a woman in a kitchen measures teaspoons of cinnamon, vanilla, or half a cup of sugar into a bowl. I have learned that moments are as precious as nutmeg, and it has occurred to me that busy interruptions are like tiny grain moths or mice. They nibble, pee, and poop, or make their own little worms and webs until you have to throw out the good stuff with the bad. It took 2 deaths and coming close myself for me to learn that there is not an infinite supply of good things in the pantry. A poem titled Geese by Faith Sheeran. A gaggle of geese return to our street each winter while migrating from one place to another. They arrive in January, around my husband's birthday, and I'm surprised to find them behind our house, honking like cab drivers in traffic. Most leave with babies, but one pair can't manage to have any. I've watched them sit for years on a wet nest of death, warming unhappiness. It is only when the other geese swim past them, proudly displaying a line of live chicks, that they realize they have failed again, their eggs silent beneath the love of their feathers. My neighbors and I don't agree on much, but we all watch these geese from our windows, with binoculars sometimes, our breakfast growing cold on the table. We wish the unsuccessful ones would have a season of luck, their eggs healthy and well placed, for each of us has known the pleasure of spring, the way it feels for something closed to open, the soft, heavenly weather of arrival. Here is a poem called New Year Love by Crystal Liebrick. I remember our breath in the icy air, and how the northern lights gathered in a haze at the horizon, spread up past the water tower, then vanished into the dark. I remember that January night in North Dakota. We left the dance, the hoods of our dad's Air Force parkas zipped tight, our bare hands pulled into the coat sleeves. We ran into the wind, down the drifting sidewalks of our 8th grade lives, to the brick and clapboard row houses on Spruce Street. We ducked between the buildings, and you pulled me close. A flickering light from someone's TV screen, a kitchen window, your fingers tracing my face, your hair brushing my eyes, your skin, your lips, my legs, my heart. I remember that January night in North Dakota, but I can't remember your name. A poem by Maria Mazziotti Gillen titled Everything We Don't Want Them to Know. At 11, my granddaughter looks like my daughter did. That slender body, that thin face, the grace with which she moves. When she visits, she sits with my daughter. They have hot chocolate together and talk. The way my granddaughter moves her hands, the concentration with which she does everything, knocks me back to the time when I sat with my daughter at this table, and we talked, and I watched the grace with which she moved her hands, the delicate way she lifted the heavy hair back behind her ear. My daughter is grown now, married in a fairy tale wedding, divorced, something inside her broken, healing slowly. I look at my granddaughter and I want to save her as I was not able to save my daughter. Nothing is that simple. All our plans carefully made, thrown into a cracked pile by the way love betrays us. A poem by Galway Kinnell titled The Perch. There is a fork in a branch of an ancient, enormous maple, one of a grove of such trees, where I climb sometimes and sit and look out over miles of valleys and low hills. Today on skis I took a friend to show her the trees. We set out down the road, turned in at the lane which, a few weeks ago, when the trees were almost empty and the November snows had not yet come, lay thickly covered in bright red and yellow leaves. Crossed the swamp, past the cellar hole holding the remains of the 1850s farmhouse that had slid down into it by stages in the 30s and 40s. Followed the overgrown logging road and came to the trees. I climbed up to the perch and this time looked not into the distance, but at the tree itself, its trunk contorted by the terrible struggle of that time when it had its hard time. After the trauma, it grows less solid. It may be some such time now comes upon me. It would have to do with the unaccomplished and with the attempted marriage of solitude and happiness. Then a rifle sounded several times, quite loud from across the valley. Percussions of the custom of male mastery over the earth, the most graceful, most alert of the animals being chosen to die. I looked to see if my friend had heard, but she was stepping about on her skis, studying the trees, smiling to herself, her lips still filled, for all we had drained them, with hundreds and thousands of kisses. Just then she looked up. The way from low to high the God blesses, and the blue of her eyes shone out of the black and white of bark and snow, as lovers who are walking on a freezing day touch icy cheek to icy cheek, kiss, then shudder to discover the heat waiting inside their mouths. A poem by Mary Oliver titled Of the Empire. We will be known as a culture that feared death and adored power, that tried to vanquish insecurity for the few and cared little for the penury of the many. We will be known as a culture that taught and rewarded the amassing of things, that spoke little, if at all, about the quality of life for people, other people, for dogs, for rivers. All the world in our eyes, they will say, was a commodity. And they will say that this structure was held together politically, which it was. And they will say also that our politics was no more than an apparatus to accommodate the feelings of the heart, and that the heart in those days was small and hard and full of meanness. Here is a poem by Fleur Adcock titled The Three-Toed Sloth. The three-toed sloth is the slowest creature we know for its size. It spends its life hanging upside down from a branch, its baby nestling on its breast. It never cleans itself, but lets fungus grow on its fur. The grin it wears, like an idiot clown, proclaims the joys of a life which is one long rest. The three-toed sloth is content. It doesn't care. It moves imperceptibly, like the laziest snail you ever saw, blown up to the size of a sheep. Disguised as a gray-green bough, it dangles there in the steamy Amazon jungle. That long-drawn wail is its slow-motion sneeze. Then it falls asleep. One cannot but envy such torpor. Its top speed when rushing to save its young is a dramatic 14 feet per minute in a race with fate. The puzzle is this, though. How did nature breed a race so determinedly unenergetic? What passion ever inspired a sloth to mate? A poem by Charles Bukowski, titled On Cats. My cats, I know, they are limited, have different needs and concerns, but I watch and learn from them. I like the little they know, which is so much. They complain, but never worry. They walk with a surprising dignity. They sleep with a direct simplicity that humans just can't understand. Their eyes are more beautiful than our eyes, and they can sleep 20 hours a day without hesitation or remorse. When I am feeling low, all I have to do is watch my cats, and my courage returns. I study these creatures. They are my teachers. Here is a poem titled An Old Life by Donald Hall. Snow fell in the night. At 5:15 I woke to a bluish, mounded softness where the Honda was. Cat-fed and coffee made, I broomed snow off the car and drove to the Kearsarge Mini-Mart before Amy opened, to yank my globe out of the bundle. Back, I set my cup of coffee beside Jane, still half asleep, murmuring stuporous thanks in the aquamarine morning. Then I sat in my blue chair, with blueberry bagels and strong black coffee, reading news, the obits, the comics, and the sports. Carrying my cup 20 feet, I sat myself at the desk for this day's lifelong engagement with the one task and desire. Here's a poem by Linda Paston titled Interlude. We are waiting for snow the way we might wait for a train to arrive with its cold cargo. It is late already, but surely it will come. We are waiting for snow the way we might wait for permission to breathe again. For only the snow will release us. Only the snow will be a letting go, a blind falling towards the body of earth and towards each other. And while we wait at this window, whose sheer transparency is clouded already with our mutual breath, it is as if our whole lives depended on the freezing color of the sky, on the white, soon-to-be fractured gaze of winter. A poem titled In Passing by Ted Kooser. From a half block off I see you coming, walking briskly along, carrying parcels, furtively glancing up into the faces of people approaching, looking for someone you know, holding your smile in your mouth like a pebble, keeping it moist and ready, being careful not to swallow. I know that hope so open on your face. Know how your heart would lift to see just one among us who remembered. If only someone would call out your name, would smile, so happy to see you again. You shift your heavy parcels, hunch up your shoulders, and press ahead into the moment. From a few feet away, you recognize me, or think you do. I see you preparing your face, getting your greeting ready. Do I know you? Both of us wonder. Swiftly we meet and pass, averting our eyes, close enough to touch, but not touching. I could not let you know that I've forgotten, and yet you know. That's all the time we have for this session of sharing poems. I hope you enjoyed them, and I look forward to sharing more in the future. Thank you.